Hey, welcome to Good Enough Parent YouTube channel. Today we're going to do a video on preventative things that parents can do to help their children deal with stress and to minimize emotional dysregulation. I don't want to get into the weeds. Emotional dysregulation is normal, and it's when a child experiences complications with their emotions, difficulty dealing with their emotions, responding to emotions, and they act out inappropriately. They can't regulate their emotional responses, meaning to reduce them enough. They can't self-regulate. And that child often finds it hard to control their emotions, and they blow up. They have excessive responses. So it's important to know that emotional dysregulation in children is not a disorder. It's an umbrella term for just a range of behaviors that appear out of the norm, such as frequent irritability or temper tantrums, unfounded dramatic outbursts. All children have that. The goal of a good enough parent is to sort of lean into creating a more secure basis for the child, so that's diminished a little or a lot. But again, always being their fan, always telling them how much you love them, that you have their back, you'd have stock in them. Make sure that you're the trusted adult in the relationship. So it's disproportionate reactions to everyday stressors. Are you with me? Children who struggle with this a lot, they have difficulty identifying emotions, problem solving in social situations. They'll trigger quickly. And look, it can lead to difficulties across their entire lives, homes and school and the playground and community, right? Now, we now know that most dysregulation inner working models were formed in your child's brain in the first couple of years. Again, no shaming. It just is what it is. So they keep popping up right there entrenched is what we're trying to say. And these inner working models can shift through strong children attunement from parent, caregiver, trusted adults like you. And that's what we're about at Good Enough Parent. And here's some tips. And if you want more tips, check out the Good Enough program online. It's still free as the production of this video. Good Enough Parent, one word, goodenoughparent.online. Again, totally free. We'll send you 15 short 10 to 15 minute tips, one a day for 15 days. Again, we would suggest that the best thing and the most powerful thing that can help emotional dysregulation is the gospel. Check out other YouTube videos where we read the simple, uncluttered gospel or the Holy Spirit Make Me prayers. Those will be posted in upcoming weeks. Okay, so here's some things that can help. Number one, help your child label their emotions when you notice they're feeling a certain way, and then confirm it. Check in. Say something like, I can see that you're crying. You look very sad to me. Are you feeling sad? Okay? And if you're trusted, if they trust you, if they realize you have their back, then they might respond to this favorably. Look, when I do marriage counseling or premarital counseling or post-marriage counseling, I use face charts like this one in a very light, humorous tone, you know, particularly for guys, I'll admit it, but not just guys, by the way. And I say, hey, point to the face that most relates to what you're feeling. Particularly after what your partner just said or did. And no judgment, I just try to put a word on it or a face on it. And then once they point it out, I ask the partner to look at the face and say, this is what your husband or wife are feeling. Respond to that. What you said somehow triggered something. So what do you think? And sometimes it lightens the atmosphere. And by the way, I have to tell you, I was never one to get the question right. You know, here it is. So Bill, where in your body are you experiencing stress right now? Is it your shoulders, your stomach, your neck? You know, look, I've been asked that in counseling situations many times, and I've honestly got nothing. I'm really out of touch with my body. It just am. So I just make something up and move on. I get it that I'm stressed, right? And I'm just emotionally out of tune guy. I'm working on it. The gospel's helping. It's my bad. So in attachment theory terms, I'm avoidant. And it served me well, but I'm getting better. And by the way, we discussed that in tip number 10 of the Good Enough Parent program. Go check that out. But there is going to be a YouTube video on avoidant reaction as well. So if you can get your child to look at the sheet of faces and point one out, it could help. Keep it light. Just don't make it a judgmental thing or a critical thing. Don't beat them over the head with it then or in the future. And you may want to, I suggest you do, share when that face was you and be sincere. It's a good time to develop that oneness with your child. It's a perfect time to practice child or adolescent attunement. That's tip number 11 in the Good Enough Parent program, so important. Look into their eyes as they are, no criticism, and say, you know, don't you, just how much I adore you, even when you're that face. Nothing you do or say, or don't do or say, or face you put on will ever change that. I can't wait to see what you'll become and how you'll change the world. But first, let's process these emotions and the emotional behaviors. We've got this, you and me. I was hurt when you said this or that or did this or that, but I'm never, ever going to leave you or not have your back. So can you tell me what's going on? Let's figure this out. That's tip number 1. Tip number 2, help your child identify what the trigger was. So what happened right before you started to feel sad? What was said to you? What did you say? What wasn't said? What were your expectations? This is so helpful. It's a huge exercise because it's almost always a typical, regular, historic trigger. And if they start sharing that with you, man, there's some trust. Good on you, parent. And if they really believe that you have their back, they will over time. And this could be of real help. Tip number 3, validate their feelings, even if you cannot validate their behavior. So I understand that you're sad, that your friends said that or shut you down or ignored you or betrayed you or whatever it is, but it's not okay to throw things or to say those things or to hit the person or hurt me. And again, I have to say I was hurt by what you said or did. I just want to share that. But I'm not going away. You and I, we're going to be here for life. Okay? Tip number 4, help them problem solve how they can express the feeling without getting into trouble. All right? Scripting, right? So when you're triggering, what do you do? What do you say? In another video, we're going to give you the Holy Spirit make me prayers. That might be a good time to say the prayer, right? So what is something else that you can do with your sadness or with your anger, right? Or with your hurt? Do you need a hug? You want to say that prayer? Do you need a book? Whatever it might be. Let's take some breaths. Tip number 5, model the healthy expression of emotions and coping skills whenever you can. Right? So don't wait till there's a pop-off. When you pop off and you work through it, share that with your child if it's appropriate. So as a parent, you may sometimes think that it's best to hide your feelings from your children. You know, that doesn't develop trust, and it may not be discipling your child as well as you think. So you may think and have been taught and raised, like, I mean, I get it, that it's not okay to be vulnerable in front of your children. However, I don't think that's correct. I mean, expressing emotions in a healthy, appropriate way can help your child learn how to emotionally regulate. So it's okay in an appropriate way. And it can also help them learn how to express themselves in healthy ways too. So dad's angry right now because that man just said something that was rude. That's why my dad is taking a few deep breaths, or he's leaving the room, or he's praying the simple uncluttered gospel, or mom is sad right now because he just learned that grandma's sick and she's crying, right? All of those things are very helpful. Tip number 6, preach the simple uncluttered gospel to them aloud. Say it aloud in their presence. Let they're watching. And remind them that God adores them as they are right now if they're His child, not as they could be or should be, no matter what their emotional reactions may be, no matter what face they pick. Model for them how you ask the Spirit in your inner being to access power from God, to feel loved and to love others again. And here's a great quote from Gregory Boyle from Homeboy Ministries, works with gangs in East LA. And here's what he says: "Where the vastness of God meets the restriction of our own humanity, words can't hold it. The best we can do is find the moments that rhyme with this expansive heart of God." 7th tip, don't teach them bad forgiving habits. Don't do this. I want you to go and forgive your sister right now or your brother right now. because Jesus says so. Please, I'm begging you, don't do that. Well, she said she was sorry, so go do the right thing. That only shames the child and hurts the child more, and it teaches them a very bad biblical worldview of forgiving. And this is important. I'm a recognized biblical forgiving expert. That's why we did a whole online program called Forgiving Path, www.forgivingpath.com. Look, check it out. It's a biblical, beautiful way. Over 1,000 people have been through it. There's a slight fee, but it's worth it. The idea is you bring a single hurt or crime or something you haven't been able to forgive or move on, and you bring it to Forgiving Path. It's scientific. We give you a short survey at the beginning and the end. Program sends you immediate results where there's been movement according to 4 scientific principles. Participants report an almost 80% increase in their experience of justice, an over 30% increase in empathy for the perpetrator of the hurt. Man, this is the stuff we want to teach our children. So do the path and pass it on, forgivingpath.com. And remind them there is a godly sorrow. You'll see what we mean when you go through the path. It comes from God. Jesus experienced it. It brings life, not death. Okay? So do you feel that you're ready to apologize to your sister, your brother, for what you said or did? Not worldly sorrow, but the real stuff that God brings. That's a much, much, much better way. All right? I hope these tips were helpful. Give me feedback, bill@gospel-app.com. Check out my podcast, Gospel Rant, wherever you do podcasts. If you don't do podcasts, just Google Gospel Rant Podcast and you'll get right there. We'll be doing a podcast series on the Song of Songs in the Old Testament. Oh my goodness, it'll be something. You'll thank me. Bill@gospel-app.com. Take heart, child of God.